Liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I'll do it again. We also could take a moment of silence to honor those troops who are serving overseas, as well as those who have given their lives to ensure that our freedoms are protected at home. Okay, first we'll call up, I think we should be okay to do things in the right order. I know, Trish, did you have to get back?
Yes.
Okay, so what we'll do is, I think we're okay. Those public hearings are going to be pretty quick, so we'll move that pretty quickly. Okay, the dates for the August workshop and meetings. Workshop is Wednesday, July 31st at 7 p.m. and the board meeting is the following Monday, August 5th at 7:30. Fire Department. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. 3 new members, if I could have your permission to vote on this evening. I've submitted applications: Tyler Cleary, Michael Cleary, and David Katz, and they're all from the Suffern Volunteer Hose Company.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
That's it, thank you.
Great work, Chief. Okay, Fire Department. We have a public hearing at 7:15 and 7:20. It's not quite there yet, but we have a public hearing that was held over concerning the money in lieu of recreation fees, as requested by a couple of board members. We had John come up with additional schedule and information. So, John, if you would come up, and I guess what we'll do at this point is, Terry, where are we? Do we have to open?
I was just going to check with Jenny to see if we close the public hearing or continue.
Sure.
Jenny?
What?
The fees, did we close the public hearing or hold it open?
We held it open.
We held it open?
Okay. Okay, John.
Good evening, members of the Board of Trustees. We came up with a various set of alternatives. It's really just a numbers game about where do you want to put the larger discounts or straight line them. In the first example I gave, there was a greater discrepancy between the first and the second tier. Spread it out different ways in the others. So what I did was show you cumulatively what would happen under the old system versus the new system along the bottom. So for instance, somebody who would have 20 units of housing would have paid $100,000. And under alternative 1, it would be $49,500, alternate 2, $61,500, $78,500, and $64,800. Substantial differences, but just a question of how you do it. In each of these, you're still going to trip through the scale. You're going to pay the one price for the first one. You're going to pay for units 2 to 5 with 2 to 5 price. So it still is cumulative. It's just a question of how it all adds up. And it's really up to the board to decide where they want to put the emphasis on the discounts for the quantities.
Okay. I know we were all sent this. I understand that it's not in the packets. So I don't know if anyone can see what you have there or has questions. I'm going here to my...
Can you just bring it closer to us?
Yes, that'd be good.
That's perfect, yeah.
Which is, hold on, let me see what we had discussed. Virginia, do you have the...
Alternate 1 was the original one. Alternate 1 was the original one?
Okay, I got it.
I mean...
The one that we had talked about was 5...
The first column there. Yeah, the first column.
No, wait. 5, 2 to 5 is 3, 6 to 10 is 25, 2 and 51 more. It's alternative 1
Is what
was
we
the original
discussed.
proposal
Right,
last
that's
month.
right, yeah, right.
So, let's see, 100%.
Also, like some of these menus, because you pick the discounts first and then you pick how you apply them. So you get 100% credit for something that's open to the public, 50% credit for something that's half and half, or if it's totally private, you get lesser credit. So you can mix and match how that would go as well.
those are guidelines. I mean, the planning board has still got to do an individualized
60.
determination. Right?
Yeah, that's just a guideline, correct? That's not something written in stone.
Right.
So they would determine how much of a percentage it would be for exactly what, if it's tennis court, whatever.
If it were a health club, it were only open to members of that condominium association.
Be 20.
It's 100%. Not open.
Right.
See, I personally, look, my opinion is, I like alternative one because I think the fee structure is fair, and then, willing to, discount their credit less if it's not available for full public use. So I look at alternative one and say, what is it, 100% full, 100%?
100%,
I think,
50,
I like
25.
alternative one on the fees personally, with alternative two on the credits. So the fee structure is, I think, fair, but they're getting less credit if it's not public use. 50% up to 50K, and private use is only 25%. So I think you make it up back that way. That's my view, is for the fees, alternative one, and for the credit, alternative two. That's just my opinion. And remember, we can do this any way we want. So if someone wants to change any of the fee structure, they can suggest that.
I think 2 and 2 is fair.
2 and 2.
2 and 2.
I'm at 2 and 2. That's no credit though. Well, the alternative 2, 60 units mean what? Like, how does the bottom? Oh, that's just the
2.
revenue without the credits?
Correct.
The bottom is the revenue without the credits.
Right.
Okay, so if you do semi-public use, 50% up to 50K, what does that mean, 50% up to, so if you spend 100,
Right.
You get credit for 50. Up period.
yeah, I think that's fair. I like 2 and 2.
I like 2 and 2.
Anyone else? That's fair.
I'll go along.
Well, we're going to do...
Does that come with an egg roll?
I said I'd go along with 2 and 2.
Just hold that up for a second.
I'll move 2 and 2.
Wait.
Well, let's just see if anyone... That's fine, because if you have... So 30 units, 20 units, 60... Yeah, no, I think that's good. Yeah. Because the key is, you're right, I think everyone's right, like, the big thing is the fees are higher, but the credit is...
More reasonable.
is more reasonable. And look, if you put in $100,000 of semi-private use, or $200,000, you can still get a $50,000 credit.
Right.
But you're putting in a lot of money. So that's for the high end, which is good, because that I like that. I like that. Seems a bit fair.
Awesome.
Anyone else questions?
Well, it's just that we want to put together a resolution on the fly here, if that's what they eventually decide to vote on, so just give me 10, 30
Yeah, I want to write
seconds.
this down also. Sorry, 2 is what?
I'll just be 1 second.
Just another half hour.
Hold it up. You getting tired?
Just another
Use
40
time.
minutes.
Just
It's like when I was in summer camp and they made you hold up buckets. 2 to 5 is 4,000. 6 to 10
Okay.
is 3,000. Hold on, 11 to 50 is 2,500. 50 to 100 is 2,000. 100 plus is 1,800. And then the credit is 100%, 50, 50%, 50, 25%, 50.
And just so we're clear, what happens after 50,000?
They're on the boat.
They're on the,
So bottom line is, if I'm a developer, if I'm correct, okay, and I say, okay, can I see that again? I'm a developer, I build 60 units. I owe the village $136,000. I put in $200,000 of recreation into the building, but it's a private gym, private pool, whatever. So if I'm correct that 200,000, I would get 50,000 credit. 136 minus 50,000 would be the payment. No, if it's completely private, but I put in $200,000.
it's 25% of 50,000.
Yeah, 50, that's it.
Okay. So, alternative 2, I build 60 units. It's $136,000 on the fees, correct? 60 units. Okay, I put in $200,000 worth of recreation in the building, but it's all private. So if I'm correct, you would get $50,000 of that 200 back.
Up to.
have a range here, 25 to 50, depending upon your
Yeah, it'll-
evaluation.
20, it says 25% up to
Yeah,
50.
but if that's just a guideline.
Yeah,
So they may decide, the planning board may decide, no, it's only 10%.
Right.
I thought we're trying to make it where it's not.
The fees are written in stone, but we said the credit is not going to be, because every kind of recreation is different. I mean, if you put in a bocce court as opposed to a health club, you know what I'm saying? There's a big difference there.
No, I understand, but the determination that I understand is that the determination is whether it's not how much money they're putting in, because they can prove it by receipts and whatever, and
Right.
they're going to have to be responsible for that. I'm sure it's a public document. The determination on the flexibility is going to be whether it's public, semi-public, or private.
Correct, but
So
if-
obviously a bocce court, you say, oh, it's out there. Is there a fence? Is it private? Well, people can use it, but it's really for us, okay, we'll determine that that's semi-public.
Correct.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be 50%, because even if, you're talking about a bocce court or a tennis court.
Put it down, they can't
It's-
see, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna decide how much recreation that they have.
Okay. So the fees are set, so there's some flexibility in terms of the determination of how the credits work. I'm okay with that, as long as the fees are set in
fees are
stone.
set.
Okay. Do we have a public
Jenny
comment?
said public hearing was closed.
No, we
Okay,
did not. We carried
the
it
public
over.
hearing was
I
closed or
tabled it.
carried over?
I tabled it.
No, but I think we closed it and then you tabled it after the vote. On the vote you did.
Oh, yeah, the public hearing, I'm sorry, yes, the public
Okay.
hearing was closed, but we tabled the...
It on a vote.
About making a.
Got it. Okay, so the public hearing was closed. It was just tabled with respect to a vote, right?
Right.
So what would be the proper procedure here now, if there is? Can you speak in? Yeah. No. Just see if there's a, whatever, what would be the process
A
until...
motion.
No, I mean, all you need to do is move on it then. If
I
the
moved.
public hearing was closed.
We increased them.
What was that, Jim? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You probably should open it up, to be fair.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with
I don't have a
reopening.
problem. If anyone would like to
No.
talk on it,
Well,
sure.
I'll move to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, is there all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
We increased the fees. I don't think we got out. I don't think.
It's fine. Let's just do it this way. I have no problem.
I see you've adjusted the fees somewhat. Your purpose in doing this at the last meeting was so there would be uniform charges of fees. Now you have moved the fees around somewhat, but you're interpreting the credits. So what have you changed? You were interpreting the fees, now you're interpreting the credits.
What I think is, and look, I think, and John says, and Terry's saying there is flexibility. I think the fees, my feeling is I think the fees should be set, and the credit should be set, and the flexibility should be a determination whether it's public, semi-public, or private, right? Because you're saying to someone, well, we'll give you a $50,000 credit, but this is completely closed. It should be different, the type of credit you get on that as opposed to an open playground. So personally, I think that the flexibility with the board should just be over determination whether the proposed recreation is public, semi-public, or private. I mean, John, is there any reason why not? I want to eliminate...
Can I say
Yeah.
what my reasoning behind that is, if you put a bocce court in there, Jim, and you get the credit for it, you know what? In 6 months, you can take it out and not have it, and then you got the credit for it. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I'm saying there
That's
shouldn't...
my thinking.
It's either public or it's not.
Right, but my thinking is that if it's a bocce court, I mean, if it's a tennis court, obviously it's gonna stay there, you know what I'm saying? But a bocce court or something that's on a smaller scale that they could get the credit for and then it could disappear in 6 months, to me, I don't know. I just feel like if it's a smaller scale recreation, it should be a smaller amount of credit towards it.
I have a question, sorry, on that.
That's my thinking behind it. I'm just thinking if it's a structural thing that's done, a playground or a tennis court, and it's semi-private as opposed to a bocce court or two bocce courts that could be gone next month or in 6 months or next year, then you've given them credit for something that's not going to be there. That's my only thinking behind it.
Well, I can agree with that, but what I could also say is they can put in a playground fence it and lock it.
Yeah. So I think it's a good point. That's what so I'm thinking, is there a way, Terry, that if, to get the public determination,
John,
right?
what's the topic?
The full public determination, can they dedicate it to the village?
Well, I don't know if they're going to be dedicated in all instances, but there certainly can be conditions either of a site plan approval or subdivision
Talk
approval.
louder. No, here.
There can be a condition of a approval if it's not dedicated that it'll be used for a certain purpose, and if we want to do belt and suspenders, there can be covenants recorded as well, so you could do it that way.
Okay. I feel comfortable that if we, personally, if we leave in those formulas as is with a determination only to the type of access there is, because you have to determine whether it's public or not public. So semi-public, it's a bocce court, we're not fencing it, there are conditions. Yes, it's on private property, but people can come in, as opposed to it's a bocce court and it's been dedicated to the village, so that it clearly is public. And then obviously a gym inside a locked private building is obviously private.
But on the same token, and this is the last one on this bocce court, they can let you use the court, but the balls and stuff may not be available.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're going to have to...
This is what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying I think that we need the room to decide on how much access and how really readily available it is to the public or not to the public.
Fair
That's
enough.
why I think the wiggle room is good for the planning board to say, okay, you have a playground there, but it does have a lock on it, and they can only get in at certain times. I don't know, maybe that doesn't warrant 50%. Maybe that only warrants 25%. Do you know what I'm
That's fine.
saying?
Okay, my second and last question on this topic. 50 or more units, you're saying 2,000 a unit under the new plan.
He has
Okay,
the...
I think that,
Jim, you still have to trip up the scale. The first one will still be the original 5, but 2 to 5, you pay that, so it's not strictly...
it's not strictly...
It's a
to-
break
No,
point.
it's a bridge.
So what would it come to for 100 units?
100 units would
It's actually like the IRS just
I'll tell you right now, 100 units would be, you have 60, so it's $80,000 more than the second alternative. So what is that, 136 was the number? So it would be 216.
Okay, 216. The reason I'm saying this is, we have, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, we only have 2 parcels of land that anything over 50 to 100 can be built on. That's Orange Avenue and the Quarry. That's your last bite of this apple. After that, recreation's not going to get any good paydays. You're going to get a house here and a house there. So you've just cut off your last 2 means of getting a sizable amount of recreation money. I think it's something you really ought to think about.
Yeah, well, I think under that example, he's saying even if you build 100 units and you put in another 200,000 of recreation, they're still going to pay a fee of $166,000 for a
Correct.
100-unit building.
Correct.
That's a pretty sizable chunk of money after a full credit of 25% if they put in more than 50 grand. So the bottom line is, if I'm building a building, I put in an indoor pool, a gym, and I give everybody who lives there free access and say, hey, I'm providing recreation that no one would ever leave, rock climbing wall, whatever. Millions of dollars of recreation in the building, I still have to pay the village $150,000.
But you're losing the sight of the fact that if you left it the way it is now at the top level only, you would collect $1,200,000 on the quarry proposal the way it is today, and you would collect what? $500,000 on
Yeah, but the
something
point
on
is,
Orange Avenue?
I'll tell you right now, no projects would be built because the purpose of the recreation fees is related to recreation. If you're going to charge someone $5,000 a unit for 100 units, then you would need to give them dollar for dollar credit on what they put in the building. No one's going to sit there and say, wait a minute, our people are buying this building because of the recreation on site. We're spending $1 million on recreation Fine. If you want to charge us $500,000 for money in lieu of recreation, that's fine, but we want a $500,000 credit for the money we put in. This guarantees us that no matter how much recreation they put in, the village is still getting paid, and that's, you know...
Unfortunately, the way you're figuring this is, as you're the contractor, and you're the village is suffering. Let the contractor worry about his money, and you worry about our money.
Yeah, but that's...
First of all, wait, I'm not finished, and then I'll listen to whatever you want to say.
We got to stop engaging him. He's just a joke.
You supposedly have a proposal from the Goldsteins to build 240 units in the quarry.
That's not true. That's not true.
Okay, then tell me what the number is.
We do not have a proposal. Right now, there's nothing before this board with respect to that.
Well, there was supposedly a meeting with the planning board with that number.
Well, it's 272 units.
Okay, 242, the number is immaterial. They're willing to build knowing that they got to pay $5,000 a unit.
True. Jim, no one...
Why isn't it true?
Okay, this is a debate that's, look, we can go back and forth on this. The bottom line is, no person has ever paid that $5,000 a unit. It increased 1,000% when you were as mayor,
Right.
just as something to be done. And the fact is that every proposal since then that's been in the village, Gitlow 2, Gitlow 3, and Cross Street, all came to the board for relief because it wasn't economical and we gave them relief. So the simple thing is, instead of having a fee structure that comes up with these great numbers that gives amounts and then leaves it to us to complete discretion, we're trying to put a system in place. So
Nobody has built in the last 8 years and paid that fee. No one.
No one has paid on a significant, is it possible that one house paid $5,000 on a
Why should they be treated any differently than a major contractor that has millions of dollars?
Because the point is that you're paying in lieu of recreation.
I would give the resident...
Thank you, Jim. Thanks.
You're welcome. I'd give the resident owner the break before I'd give the large corporation.
Thank you.
I just want to remind everybody, the rec fee is based upon the need that the village has for recreation facilities. You did a recreation plan. It basically said you have 99% of what you want. The only thing that was identified was another softball field or two. So when we create this, it's reflective of what the actual needs are, not what we can extract from the developer.
That's what I thought the purpose was as well. Thank you.
I think the site is getting lost on what this is all about. I truly do. It's not a cash mechanism for the village. It's for in lieu of recreation.
No, I agree with that. Adam DiStefano, 19 Prairie Avenue. Just to give me, when I was doing some research on what other facilities charge in lieu of recreation, I found out Airmont does $3,000 per lot, and our nearest neighbor, Montebello, they don't do a slide ruler type thing. What they end up doing is it's $7,500 per lot, but if you're going to build multiple units such as townhouses, or if you're going to build like condos, it's $5,000 for a single bedroom, $6,000 for a two bedroom, and $7,000 for three bedroom. I just want to, have you looked into doing something similar to that where it's based on the number of people that are going to be in the bedroom? Because obviously if you have a three bedroom, they're going to contribute.
Please address the board. Thank you.
Yes, well, I'm also addressing the person you hired for this. I'm wondering if he looked into doing a different effect for these larger projects, the number of bedrooms, because I think that would be a much more effective way, and it would be fair to also the small-time resident, as Jim brought up, and the larger corporation who's only going to build a single bedroom for, let's say, someone who wants to retire in the village.
Adam, as John said, this is not a revenue stream for the village to extract as much money as they can. This is a purpose to deal with recreation. And the point is, as he said, we have an analysis of our recreation that says we have everything other than softball fields. I believe that it's our job to bring in revenue, and every single residential project that we're talking about here, there has been no tax breaks. These are full paying tax revenue. So we're forgetting here that the village is going to get substantial tax revenue in perpetuity. That's where we're in the business of having residential redevelopment to bring in tax dollars. The purpose of the recreation fee is to provide recreation, which we have significant recreation. So, thank you. And I
Yes,
know
no,
John's
that is,
considered
I do
everything.
agree, it is meant to bring in recreation. It also can be used as a deterrent to prevent large buildings from being put up that are unnecessary. And where you're saying it's going to raise the tax base, in the Chestnut Gardens, which is, we would have gotten approximately $56,000 a year from that project each year for the tax revenue, was sold to a nonprofit. So we can't even guarantee that some of these wouldn't be something like that, because they have the right, the builder does, to sell it.
That's not true. That is, Chestnut Gardens, I've been talking to them, and if you read the paper on this issue, that we do not believe under the circumstances in which they've purchased it, that it will be available for a tax exemption.
Yes, but you say you don't believe, you don't know that for a fact yet.
Well, but based on the law and the advice I have, they're not going to be able to get a tax exemption. It is not for the purpose of carrying out their nonprofit. It's to house construction workers during construction, and once that's done, they plan on selling it. I have been advised that that is not a use contemplated for purposes of tax exemption.
Okay, glad
Okay?
to hear that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and just the last thing I want to say is just, I think that doing something like this is a bad decision because it's only going to encourage people to build more units, and I don't agree with that entirely. I think it will lead to overdevelopment of the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any questions on this matter?
Slow down, Tom. Driving like a crazy
Oh
man.
my goodness.
Ring your bill if you're going to go over the speed limit.
He's gotten faster.
Hi, I usually don't talk, but to alleviate Trish's concern about, like, say, a bocce ball court disappearing 6 months later, why don't you write into the credit that it has to be a permanent and maintained recreational facility, whatever it is. This way, if they do take it away, they forfeit that credit that they got, and they got to give us back the money.
Okay, yeah, that's what we're talking about.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
This is so painful. I can't do it. Stay happy,
Tim McInerney, 8 Pavilion Road. Just a quick question. You're pushing this the last 2 meetings. When you used to do the budget for the village, you'd push it out 3 months ahead, the public gets a shot at this. Why all of a sudden are we pushing this so much that we want to cut the monies?
We've been talking about this for 6 months. This is not pushing it.
Yeah, but it's only been the last 2 meetings that it's really been hot and heavy. But there's not a lot of people that are involved in it. I'm just wondering why we're going to take less money than more money.
We're not taking less money, as I've said repeatedly. This was a mayor 2 administrations ago who raised the fees 1,000%. In every subsequent situation we've had where we've had significant units, 3 developments, 100 units, get low 2, 100 units, get low 3, and 50 units in Cross Street, in every situation that the applicant has applied and received a reduction in the fees, because you could make it $100,000 a unit, but it doesn't mean it's legal and it's enforceable, because as John has said repeatedly, it has to bear some sort of relationship to recreation. Our need for recreation that's going to be used, recreation that's not available on site. So what I'm saying is, what is important is to have a system in place. Like anything else, yes, certain people only come through, this has been something we've discussed for months, even years over doing it, and like anything else, it's a process that's in place and that we're dealing with. It's just come up now. We had our planner review it. It's on the agenda. Some people had more questions last month. Now we're here dealing with it this month.
All right, because the only other question I had was, if you vote on it and it passes through tonight, the builders who are building, who haven't built anything just yet, then they're entitled to go with this because they haven't built anything?
They're going to go, like anything, to the village board. And if we don't change it, you're going to have a situation where they're going to come to the board again and the planning board, and we're not going to have a system in place, and they're going to ask for a discount, and then we're going to have to hire John Lang again to do an individual analysis on every single one, and then we're going to get back to the situation that says, why don't we put a plan in place that actually is reasonable and was not done arbitrarily by 2 administrations ago based on a number that was 10 times in excess of what it was. previously. We're just trying to put a system in place so we don't have to deal with this every time someone comes forward.
All right, because I mean, I was just thinking, you got 40, 50, I guess, units that are going to be built that haven't been built, and this is more like a windfall for these guys.
It's not. It's, as I said repeatedly, it is not. I've said it again. It is not. Every single person who has come before has requested and been granted relief, significant relief from that formula. Gitlow 1, Gitlow 2, okay, 100 units at $5,000 a unit is $500,000. They paid the village $100,000. That represents an 80% discount. So you're using words like windfall. They got a windfall. Our point is that fee structure was not reasonable. So we now have a structure in place that's reasonable so that no one can use words like windfall or whatever, because that applicant, any applicant now who's before us, has a right to go to the village, has a precedent, there's a law in place, and they would get relief based on the current formula. So instead of it being arbitrary, like someone would say, okay, Gitlow got 80%. I'm building on Washington or I'm building on Orange. I want 80%. No. Well, why did you give them 80%? Or let's say they get 85%. Why did they get 85%? And the next guy comes in. That is why we are doing this, because we had numbers that were never enforced. Ever. So we're fixing it instead of having something that bears no reality to have something that bears reality. Simple as that.
Is there a little bit of wiggle room in there so that you can judge on different ones?
That's what we just said. We're doing it based on the credit they have. But we want a fee structure in place is uniform so no one can accuse any board member or anybody of treating people differently, which is potentially what we face based on the current system. That is why we did this.
All right.
Okay? Thank you, Tim. We'll get to the other things. I'm just going to say thank you.
Jean Hennelly, 135 Wayne Avenue. So the thing is, if you had flat out said no to these to Gitlow, what, they would have just walked away? I don't understand. You guys caused the problem by, okay, yeah, we'll give you a break. You will give you a break. If you just kept it at the 5,000, like the other towns do, then we would have extra money to take care of the town pool, to take care of the parks that we have now. And as far as I think we could use a tennis court in town. We don't have one of those. One softball field it would be wonderful, but there are other activities people could use. The basketball court by the pool, people can break an ankle. That could be spruced up. There's plenty of things that could be used that we could use money for. So there's rec money that could be used for the curtains here. We need new microphones, right? I think.
Thank you.
So I'm saying you're blaming it on a previous administration, but what would have happened if you just said no?
They would not have built the project. HUD would not have given them the money to do it. So your answer is there would have been nothing and no project and no $100,000. HUD would not have allowed it was not in the budget, $500,000 for rec fees. That's a fact. So I appreciate your concerns.
Well, they could have gone elsewhere then. And we'd be saving services for the police and ambulance and more rooms at Good Sam. So
thank you. I do feel it's important to have senior housing, affordable senior housing available for the people who have spent their life in Rockland and want to stay here. So I think it would be a loss to lose that, and my good friends at Gitlow feel the same way.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Is there a second?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there a motion to adopt a fee structure?
moved.
Do we have the, Terry?
What does this say?
I have a question.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Yeah, the questions to the village attorney. It seems to me, on a very technical basis, that what we're voting on was not what was advertised in the public hearing, and it seems to me that maybe we need another public hearing, because these...
Well, The notice of public hearing was not on with particular amounts. The public hearing was held last time, and although it was closed, it was reopened here, so I don't think there's any kind of issue as far as the sufficiency of the hearing.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion.
And this is not a local law, by the way, it's a resolution, so it is somewhat different.
Resolution
You
number
have to talk a
13.
little, you haven't been talking a lot. Thanks.
Number what?
13.
Resolution number 13.
Okay, we have the amounts as discussed?
Well, if I understand what you were proposing, it was one new lot would be $5,000 per lot or unit, 2 to 5, 4,000, 6 to 10, 3,000, 11 to 50, 2,500, 51 through 99, I guess that would be is 1,500. I'm sorry, 2,000. 2,000 now, 2,000. And, I'm sorry, 51 to 100 would be 2,000, and 100 or more,
1,800.
101 or more, 1,800, with the guidelines being full public access, 100% up to 50,000, semi-public use, 50% up to 50,000, private use, 25% up to 50,000.
Yep.
With planning board
Right, the guidelines, so,
Discretion.
right.
on the credit only.
And also with
Yes.
what Tom said, to make sure that it's a permanent structure.
Yes, well, they can put in those conditions, right?
Well, you can put in a resolution and that for any project that receives a credit, there shall be either a dedication and/or sufficient assurances by means of easements, restrictive covenants, or conditions of approvals to ensure that any use offered for recreational purposes is maintained for that use in perpetuity.
Okay.
Trish, did you make that motion?
I did.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Falciglia.
I'm voting no. Let me give you my reasons. On the surface, this seems like an excellent idea. Economies of scale, buy one, get one free. However, that philosophy is rooted in the premise of generating additional business or inventory depreciation. The argument that this will bring more development or redevelopment in the long run rings hollow, in my opinion, for two reasons. First, Suffern does not have hundreds of acres of land available for development. Second, in a generally rebounding housing market, this cost can easily be passed on to the buyer. A developer's profit margin is such that to help offset it in return for a loss of revenue is, again, in my opinion, not the way to go in these economic times. To say that a developer will be dissuaded from a project because of this has no historical foundation. If anything, this proposal seems to disproportionately reward the big developer in contrast to the individual homeowner. With no revenue match in place to offset the loss, I am urging my colleagues to vote no. I am very comfortable negotiating on a case-by-case basis with each developer because sometimes the errors go right to who's doing the negotiating. So once again, I vote no.
Okay, Mrs. Abato?
I'm voting yes, and contrary to Mr. Falciglia, I do not want that expense passed on to the person who's trying to buy a home to live in. I think we're all falling on very hard times right now, and that's exactly what's going to happen to each and every person who tries to, get themselves a home for their family, is that big number is going to be passed on to them. So I think this fee schedule is reasonable. I think that, it's a good plan for the village, and I vote yes.
Mrs. Corrigan?
I'm voting yes because I had long conversations with John on this program, and I truly understand what this is all about. And this is not about getting a revenue stream for the village of Suffern, because as soon as the last two lots are built on, unless someone's taking down a house and rebuilding it, which it doesn't even count at that point because it's already an existing building, this will go away. This will not be here forever. This is not something that 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road is going to be in existence. And we don't have that much park space left that's been deemed that we need to be able to actually charge these charges. So I think to make something reasonable and projects to move forward to whoever is going to build them needs to happen. Otherwise, we are going to be looking at vacant lots where no one wants to touch, and we're going to be continuing to look at the same things that we're looking at right now. So I vote yes.
Okay, Mr. Meehan.
Yeah, I think that this is a situation that's going to have to be, revisited. But it seems for 2013 that these seem to be reasonable numbers. They may not be reasonable 5 or 10 years from now, but that's just something that crossed my mind, and I'm going to vote yes.
No.
Okay. I similarly vote yes, and the resolution is carried. Thank you, John, for your hard work on this.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Okay, quickly, we have fire zone. You know what? We're going to
Have
move
to do
back. But we can move back.
You have to go.
I want to get through.
We don't have to.
You can do it later.
Okay, we're going to do, I'm going to do culture and recreation, the village attorney and grant writer, and then we'll go back to the public hearings.
Sorry about that. I forgot to grab them earlier.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Village Board. For the recreation update for the month of July, we have Clifford Theater. Auditions started in July, which performances started today. Practices. The practices will be all month of July, and performances will be on August 2nd and August 3rd. And this year's performance will be Legally Blonde. We have upcoming a pool party tomorrow, July 9th. That will be Silly Willy from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Suffern Pool. Okay. We have a concert on July 11th, No Exit, and that will be 7 o'clock at the Avon Gazebo. We have Family Day, which is July 14th at the Suffern Pool, and the rain date for that will be July 21st. That will be from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. We have a concert on July 25th with Magic Touch, and that will be also 7 o'clock. We have a children's concert on July 29th, and that will be Kurt Gallagher at 7 o'clock. We have a concert on August 8th, and that will be Reflections, big band, and that will also be 7 o'clock p.m. And then just as an update, Suffern Day will be on September 28th, and the rain date will be September 29th, and Suffern Day is from 11 to 3.
Okay.
And I think that's it. Any questions?
No, and I know that there was a meeting today, right, with Tom and the stuff with respect to...
Yes, Clifford Theater, we met today to discuss the upcoming performances, which will be on August 2nd and August 3rd. And the program has grown quite a bit this year, so it will be, we have over 50 children, which is a great success. So we're looking at budgets and we're looking at different expenditures that we're going to have for the year, so that's ongoing.
Okay, so I guess that you guys are working in terms of, since there's more kids, there's more revenue and figuring out the expenses. So if we have to, I guess, later do an amendment to the budget on that, Tom, we can do that? Okay.
Question, I didn't know that there was a cost for the participants. I mean, I have no problem if there was. What is it? I'm just curious.
We're looking, there's a lot of new opportunities to look at for the program. We might look to hiring a new person, which would help the current directors. We have 2 directors with the play and a musical director, so we're looking to hire somebody else.
That's not...
It's $50 a head, right?
Okay.
50 a person?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
50 a person.
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable to me.
Yeah, because I think originally, how many kids were there last, like 2 years ago?
There was about 37, or less than that 2 years ago.
And now there's...
Over 50.
Yeah, so I think the issue is with like 20 more kids or 15 more kids, that brings in another $700 or $800, but we also want to make sure that there's more supervision, so I think that's just being worked out.
Right.
So, I don't know, do we need to, how do we handle it? Do we need to come back after, or?
I think it's fine as it is. I don't think
Okay.
Suffern's got talent.
Yeah, well, also, and that's an issue we talked about, because there are kids from out of the village also, and they pay the same, and it's a great program. It's just, we got to make sure it's it matches up, so.
Get to know you every year.
Okay, so if you guys can work that out with the director, and we'll get that taken care of. So it's
Okay.
great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy. Okay, where am I? Village attorney.
Okay. The mayor had negotiated a lease, or at least the main terms of a lease on 120 Orange Avenue. You have in a letter the main terms of that. We did get a lease today, which I really haven't had a chance to thoroughly analyze yet, but if those terms are something that are acceptable to the board, then I would suggest that you authorize the mayor to sign a lease subject to approval of the village attorney as far as the form and substance and non-substantial issues.
Is this correct? A 99-year lease?
It's a 99-year lease. It provides years 1 through 12. I thought it provides years 1 through 15 for a payment of $12,000, which starts upon signing of the lease. Years 16 through 30, $15,000, and then $1 a year after that, and that's supposed to approximate the appraised value of the property. And there's an option to purchase the property during the term of the lease for the $280,000 appraisal value without the rental payments being applied as any type of credit towards the purchase price. And as you know, this is part of the Orange Avenue development project. This lot is one that the village, through the parking authority, acquired a number of years ago with this intent in mind, because it was an important part of any redevelopment project in that area.
So, to add to what Terry said, we had discussed this. This would be a lease for the property. Immediately upon signing the lease, the village would receive $12,000. And then each year that they continue to lease the property, there would be another $12,000 payment. Ultimately, they have the ability to close on the property for the appraised value of $280,000. And the lease payments are not applied to that. The village purchased the property for the purpose of getting residential redevelopment on that spot. So this is towards that end. This is not an approval of the project. This is just the first preliminary step so that the potential developer has all the land needed to propose a development. And then while this is going on, we also, the planning board, working with John Lang, is considering new zoning. When that comes through, that will then go back to the planning board for a public hearing and then to the village board. So this again is a preliminary step in the pursuit of residential redevelopment on Orange Avenue, which has been something that this board, my predecessor, and 2 mayors ago have looked to do. So I think for everybody, this is a great day for the village to get residential redevelopment of our downtown right near the train station, and it's great to take this first step.
Well, I'm confused here. We don't own the property, though.
Yes, we do.
We own the property.
Yes.
And there's a tenant in there.
There's a
Yes.
tenant whose lease
So
expires shortly.
the Orange Avenue associates here are going to pay us for no use of the property that they don't own? They don't own the property.
They don't own the property, we own the property.
So they're going to enter into a lease with us.
They're going to lease it with an option to purchase.
Can you talk into the mic, please, Terry?
They're going to lease it with an option to purchase.
Okay. All right.
That's the proposal.
And this is capped at a lifetime $300,000?
No,
In other
no,
words,
if they decide to
if
purchase
they
the
decide to
property,
purchase it 22 years from now, we're
it'll
locked
be
into
at
$300,000.
$280,000, which is the current appraisal price.
But the lease payments we receive are not applied to that payment. So if in
Well, of course
22
not.
years...
No, of course not. I mean,
Yes.
that's not even a question. Why would lease payments be applied to the principal balance? I mean, that would be foolhardy. After the situation with the parking authority entering into an 11-year lease, I just find a 99-year lease ridiculous.
No, I think that the plan is going to be that ultimately a 99-year lease typically exists in situations where private development occurs on municipal property. If you look at Battery Park City, which is a significant, large portion in Lower Tribeca of Manhattan, the Port Authority owns the land and entered into long-term leases with the city in terms of building on it. So this would be a situation in which that's a potential, or if down the line, which I think is the anticipated use, that if they get the approvals, that they will ultimately close on the property. So it's a way for them to get an interest in the property so that they're willing to pursue it and spend money in anticipation of getting approval for the project. And if they don't, then they can terminate the lease, we keep the money, we own the property, and everybody moves on. So I think it's a reasonable way to move forward, considering you don't want, no business person is going to buy a piece of property or significant pieces of property to build on based on a price that values it as being built on without having any right to build on it. So it's a way for them to move forward, have skin in the game, but also protect them if they don't get the zoning, and protect us if we don't approve it because it's a lease.
I want to read the lease. I want to see the lease.
So the lease has those terms.
I want to see for myself if there was an escape clause, because according to this, they'll pay $12,000 in rent in year 1 and $12,000 in year 15.
Right.
I'm very reticent about entering into long-term leases.
I think that the plan in this situation is that ultimately they will close and purchase the property once they get approvals. I believe that's the anticipation. A lease is a way for them to get an interest so that they're willing to move forward with the project. I know you've only been on the board for, a year and a half, but again, the redevelopment of Orange Avenue is something that we've been talking about since 2004. We've had a lot of fits and starts, and now we have a real do this. So this will enable us to move forward, protect the village, and then also enable a developer to pursue it in a way that they can protect themselves also, and we can move forward step by step. I think it's a reasonable, prudent way to do it. I do not think that anyone who's reasonable in business would purchase a piece of property to develop on, spend $300,000 or whatever the amount is without the approval to do it. So this way, they can move forward, they have a lease. If they don't get approvals, we get our $12,000, they walk away. If they do, I believe that, maybe they'll lease it for another year or two during construction, but ultimately, I would overwhelmingly believe that it's their intention to close on the property and own the property as part of the project.
Well, I would have to agree with that. I don't know what being on the board a year and a half has to do with my analysis, but...
Excuse me.
Well,
You're out of order.
The lessee is can people please not yell out? Excuse me, if people cannot, this is not a public hearing, if people will please follow the rules. Okay, thank you. There'll be audience participation after. Thank you.
Well, on the question?
Sure.
According to my email, I received a copy of this 31-page lease at 10:30, but I didn't look at my email till 3. I spent about an hour and a half looking at it, and generally I don't have that much of a problem with it.
Come on.
Excuse me, please. I'll be quiet while others speak. And I would just like to have more time. So, I don't know that time is of the essence of why we couldn't table this for a month. And if people feel desperate that it can't be tabled for a month, I'd be willing to meet later this week with a day or two. But the 99-year lease thing is not something that I'm aware that I heard before. I'm not saying, and I'm not going to swear on a Bible about that, but I don't really recall the terms of a 99-year lease. And when I opened the thing up, it was surprising. And I think that this is something...
Terry, do what you need to do.
Excuse me. Excuse me. I think this is something we could put on our website, and I think give it a month. And then if people wanted to write to us, or that they thought it was a bad idea or something, they could do it. It is a big move. If I had to vote for it, if I absolutely had to, I'd vote yes.
Jack, can I say why you want to make it a 5-year lease? We can make it a 5-year lease. I have no problem with that. The terms of 99 is just, it's just a way, the reason this was negotiated.
I understand that.
Yeah, so if you want to make it a 5-year lease, I think that's fine. If the term is 99 years, that's just there because it's just a lease of those terms. The only reason we're doing a lease is a way for them to get the property under contract.
I understand
so they're willing
that.
to invest in it. So if you want to do a 5-year lease, then I have no problem with that.
Okay,
99 years.
yeah, but I want to do those things, but I want to do it in a deliberate manner, and certainly I don't think that 1 month is,
Jack, the reason that this has come on, and we've been working on it for a month or more, is because...
Yeah, why are we getting this in the mail today?
Because I got the lease today.
Well, I know that you got the lease today, but I mean, I'm really upset. And the guy who prepared the lease is my personal attorney.
Okay.
And I have a great deal of faith in him. And I actually have a great deal of the owners of the corporation. I think that, I've had quite a performance record.
The point I was trying to make, Jack, was that there are a number of parcels that have to be secured in order for this to move forward.
Yes.
And my understanding is that there are time limits on all of these other commitments or options that are in existence. And so in order for anything to move forward, all of the parcels have to be tied up so that they are in the potential applicant's control so that they can comfortably start closing and moving forward. Well, first of all, moving forward with the approvals and at the appropriate time closing on those. So, from that perspective, to their position, a month may be important.
Okay, make it 3 days. I'll meet Thursday night, I'll meet Wednesday night.
I think, if Terry says it, I think the terms are pretty simple and agreed on. So the issue I find here, again, is just to enable, we're not committing to anything. This is just to enable the applicant to have interest in the parcels so they can come to the village with a proposal, at which point this same village board has the exclusive right to grant or not grant a zone change. But if we don't allow them to have an interest in the property through a lease, then they're not going to come together with an application. So this is the shortest term, lowest risk thing for them to have an interest. You can't asking them to say, okay, spend all this hundreds of thousands of dollars without having an interest in the property. So the reason we did a 99-year lease was just a 99-year lease. The terms are the same. It's a $12,000 payment up front that's unrefundable. Okay, the only other issue which we dealt with is we got 2 appraisals on the property. One came in at $275, one came in at $280. Okay, and all this is doing is enable them to have an interest so that we can move forward with the zone change, at which point it will go to the planning board and it will go before this village board for a full and fair public hearing on the project. But if we don't have this in place, especially now, because look, we know that dealing with these property owners, people have tried for 9 years and it's been very difficult. We're now in a situation where, yes, this is moving quickly, but quickly in this box. This has been before this village for 9 years. And I believe strongly more than anything that this project, as built, is the key to revitalizing our downtown. That corner is a mess. It's right near the train station. In preliminary conversation, it's my understanding they're going to spend a lot of money redoing that tunnel that goes to the train station, which is disgusting right now. So it's a great thing for the village. We're not voting tonight on approving this project, not even close. We're just enabling someone to then say, okay, we now have an interest, we want to move forward and make a proposal to the village board. So we're getting paid $12,000 for someone to come back to us in a couple of months to ask our permission for this. So,
Jack,
I fully understand it, but I don't get a lease. Start reading a lease at 3 o'clock and then vote.
Are there any terms in the lease, Terry, that are outside of...
That's what I wanted to ask Jack. Jack, did you, other than the long-term portion of it, what other concerns did you have?
I really haven't. I'm not a lawyer.
You're not sure?
I've dealt with a lot of things, but usually when I'm presented with a 31-page document that's of vital importance to the village, I read the thing, And I didn't really understand all of it, and I just want to have a day or two to understand it, that's all. And if you can't do that, I'll just abstain from tonight's vote.
Jack, what I was going to suggest was, I mean, normally we don't even get the lease or that type of stuff to the board members. I mean, we usually just have the essential terms and conditions, which you have,
Yeah.
and you know, the rest is all inconsequential legal stuff, just making sure that the intent of the main terms are carried out.
Yeah, well, this inconsequential legal stuff got us into an 11-year lease at the parking authority. I want to see the lease. That's my position. I don't think it's asking too much to see the lease.
I think, look,
I'm tired of voting on things that I get at the last minute.
It's, but also I do understand that there are people working on things every day and we're engaging them. And what may be last minute for you, this has been out there for a while, and tabling everything every month ends up, you know, creating, you know, a situation in which we're not getting done what we've agreed to discuss. I mean, the terms we discussed about it, an email was sent last week by me to the entire board members. We had discussed this at a workshop. We agreed to get 2 appraisals. So the impression that we're just throwing this on people is unfair. It's unfair to the work that I'm doing, that Terry's doing, that everybody else is doing. We discussed the terms, we discussed the length, there was 1 appraisal, we went for a 2nd appraisal. I think that it is a legitimate concern over the terms of, you know, the lease. Those leases are standard, and normally I think it's not unreasonable that in the past everybody has said, okay, these are the terms, it's an X number lease, these are the dollar amounts, you know, we vote to approve it subject to an attorney review. That's how we've always done this before. Obviously, you know, the 31-page document, Terry's going to review it, and if there are any other terms that aren't in there, that's fine. But again, I do think it's a legitimate concern over the length of the lease. I tried to give an explanation as to why we're doing it that way, but if you're not comfortable, again, we can do an option. We can do whatever we want. The bottom line is we just want to agree to something so they can move forward, so that we can get them to make a proposal to the village. And I do not think it's unreasonable after 9 years to ask everyone to make that leap, especially when all that leap involves is the village getting $12,000 that is unrefundable. We are not committing to this project. We are not saying yes. Okay? So I'm just asking everyone to keep their eye on the ball about this, and it's a simple thing where they're getting an interest so they can make a proposal to us, which we will all have the right to deliberate on. Okay. Terry, is there, I mean...
Well, I mean, I took a quick look at the lease. I haven't had a chance to go word by word, but I mean, the lease itself pretty much implements exactly what's said here. I might have 1 or 2 comments, but again, I mean, when you have a 31-page lease, but very little of it is of any consequence other than just normal boilerplate legal language.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me,
yes.
Very frankly.
Yes.
I haven't, you know.
Do you want to amend it, Jack? I have no problem if you're willing to move forward to do it for 5 years. If the 99 years freaks, look.
No, I just want the time. That's all I want is the time. You know, I think I get paid a lot of money for what I do. I really do. $10,500. Now, for me, it's rather easy because I've been through all this stuff before. But I really think I owe it to the people to read the lease and understand it. So that's where I am. Okay. And if you want to vote tonight, I will just abstain from the vote. And then if you want to say vote 2 nights from tonight, I'll either vote yes or no.
Jack, you're saying just to give you a couple of days, you wanted a couple of days to go through?
Jack, can we make the lease subject to your review and Terry's review? Having another meeting
I want to look at it too.
Then anyone can review the lease and get Terry to, if Terry signs off on it, I just want to agree to the payment of $12,000 so they have an option on the property so they can make a proposal to us. Well, this has been everything we've discussed. I went over this. I emailed the board repeatedly. We did the repaisals. We put in all this work. Nothing has changed from what we discussed or conversations we've had. If it's a question of a 31-page lease, the attorney will review it, and if there are no terms that are in there, then we won't sign the lease. But
yeah, I was going to suggest. I mean, if the main items that are in that letter are agreeable to you, I would have made it subject to my review of the lease in any event. So if anybody on the board has any suggestions or anything that they want included or deleted from the lease,
Okay,
they'll be
I'm
happy
just
to
not
put that in
voting
there.
yes tonight, okay?
Okay, no problem.
All over?
Trying to work it out, no problem.
Well, I know.
Okay,
and
but
I am too.
instead of us, wait a minute, instead of us voting no on something that we may think is a great idea, Jack, what happens if you want until Friday, you said?
Well, I'm leaving for Maine on Saturday, but I'm pretty free any night this week. And,
Okay.
or any, any,
So what-
I
what
know
would be-
2 of you work, 3 of you guys work. So
What would you be agreeable to? What would be enough time for you?
A couple of days.
I'll let you sign off on the lease. We can agree to that. I won't sign it until you agree to it. I just don't know if we can have another meeting in the next 48 hours.
Well, can we do it by email?
What?
Can we do it by phone or
No,
email?
I mean,
No, you can't vote by vote.
Jack, all I'm saying is I understand tonight, I'm not asking you to do that. To have another meeting over this, if it's a concern of Terry's review, which is the way we've operated all the time, I have no problem making it subject to. But to have another board meeting where I'm not available, I don't know
Yeah,
who's
it'll take me
available, over
Okay.
just a review of a lease.
Dagan, how about if, I just spoke to Charles and Jack, if this would be agreeable, we could vote to be able to see this through, agreeing that by Friday, at whatever time you would like, that you or any board member do not have any objections. If there are any objections, then
We'll
obviously
reconvene a
we
meeting.
have to reconvene.
Well, the term's going to have to
Is
be
that fair?
changed.
Yeah, well,
The term's going to have to be changed.
Okay, so that's fine,
which
but we
term?
have that time to do that.
Which term? The
He
term
wants-
of the lease?
99 years.
What,
Well,
okay.
we're saying to 5.
Got it. Are you comfortable with 5?
I don't know, I want to
you
read the lease.
comfortable
I
with-
want to think it over. I want to think it over.
Okay,
I'm
just-
not,
but-
you know,
Yeah.
Term of
Okay.
the lease.
I'm tired, I don't want to be railroaded. I
I'm
want
not,
to think
Charles,
it
I'm not
over.
railroading you, but I also understand that if attorneys and board members email materials to people way in advance and ask them for input,
It
that
depends on your definition of way in advance.
last week.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to move that we agree to a 5-year term lease with the entire board's ability to have, by Friday at 5 PM, any objections brought to Terry's attention, and if that being so, that we'll have to reconvene to vote on this again. If there are no objections by 5 PM on Friday, then the motion will carry through.
But Charles is saying he's going to object to it, so...
Okay, well, I moved it.
Well, and let me just make sure that we've got enough particulars in the motion. It's 5 years, $12,000 per year. The tax arrangement will be the same. And do they have a right to purchase during that, or is it just a straight lease?
Yes, purchase.
And a right to purchase at $280,000 during the 5-year term of the lease.
Right, and that would...
With no credit.
All right.
Subject to who?
Okay,
Terry's
but-
review of the lease.
Terry's review of lease, and every board member by 5 o'clock on Friday must give their objection before that time, or else the motion will stand.
But if they object, just on terms of objecting, then there's no
Okay.
lease. So I could just say, I object. Why isn't it just subject to...
I think...
No, it has to be subject to objection of one of the terms of the lease, Dagan.
Right. In other words...
I'm not objecting like petition objections.
No, and you can't. Let's do this so that you have a legal resolution, okay? You're agreeing to enter into a lease subject to the terms that we just discussed, subject to review of the lease, because the terms, the essential terms you're agreeing to, subject to review of the lease and any suggestions or alterations to the lease. I mean, that's basically what it is, I think, really.
Yeah.
It's not just an outright objection, because
Yes,
you're
it's about
agreeing
the
to the
lease.
main terms.
That nobody understands anyway.
Okay. And
Okay.
Jack, you want, if I'm correct...
I'll motion that.
Okay. I'll say, before saying, I just want to make sure, Jack, your concern is you just want time to review it and all that and make sure you're comfortable.
Essentially, yeah.
You're essentially okay with the terms? Fine.
Yeah, I really like the idea of going to 5, because one of the things I didn't like is going $12,000 in 2013 might in 2020 really be equivalent to $30,000, or could be equivalent to 12, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, or 5
Might I make a
pesos.
suggestion? Instead of doing it Friday at 5 o'clock, how about if we do a little bit earlier, like Thursday, so that if there's any questions, you can get your questions answered, and then That way you have time to
Yeah.
discuss it with Terry?
No, but you have that
I'll do
time
it
until 5 o'clock
long
on
before
Friday.
Friday.
Okay.
You have till.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right, as long as everybody's comfortable with
Until
that.
5 o'clock on
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'll make my objections and questions,
exactly.
whatever I have known.
So we need a second.
Okay, second.
Okay, but I just want to make sure with Terry that if anybody has, can they just object?
No,
and that
no, no,
stops it?
no. The point is, you're agreeing to the essential terms of the lease. So you're going to review the lease document, which at this point is just a draft agreement that implements, at least the original proposal will have to be changed to implement the revised proposal, but the rest of the language, if anybody has any substantial objections that the proposed leasee doesn't agree to changing, then we have to readdress it. But since the lease is essentially implementing the primary proposal, I don't think there's much of an issue there.
Right.
And should we just change it to 5 years right now? Because
Yes.
that's everyone's
We did. I put that in the motion.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So you have a second.
Okay, Mr.
What is the lease expiring on the sweet shop?
Sorry?
The lease on the sweet shop?
Yes, it's only a 10-month lease.
Oh, okay. You know, I don't know, again, why this is lost in the translation, but I didn't agree to 5 years either.
No one's saying you have to agree to 5 years.
Well, I just said we're going to vote on a 5-year lease, to amend it to a 5-year lease.
Okay, so you're voting no.
Well, that's the case, yes. I'm not opposed to the lease, but I'm not sure I want to do 5 years either.
Okay.
I mean, so are we having a vote?
Yes.
No.
Ms. Abato?
Yes.
Mrs. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion is carried. Okay.
What am I, 0 for 3 tonight?
We have an award to give out.
I have one more
Okay,
quick
one
thing.
more item.
Yep, since this was the village attorney still, the state legislature recently amended the general municipal law with respect to filing a notices of claim for damage claims against municipalities. Used to be that it would have to be served on the village clerk or the village attorney by certified mail or personally. The statute, for whatever reason, was amended so that, like in other lawsuits, the Secretary of State can also be served with a notice of claim. And pursuant to the statute, we are required to designate somebody in the village to whom the Secretary of State will forward the notice of claim if one is served upon them, and I would suggest to the board that the appropriate person is Virginia Menschner, the village clerk. And I need a
You
motion
okay
to
with that,
effect.
Virginia?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
More work for
Yes, I'd like to give, yes, you have to go. Congratulations.
Take it easy.
Have fun, Trish.
Okay, I'm going to go up.
Just had a baby about 3 hours ago.
Oh, terrific.
And she was the
Congratulations.
And she was the coaching mom. No. She was in the delivery room the whole time. Where'd you go? Yeah. So she was in there from 3:30 this morning.
Okay. As most of you know, we have a tradition that we have been following in the village for, I think, a little over 2 years now. It is the Andrew C. Haggerty Service Award. It is given in memory of Andrew Haggerty, who was a former trustee and mayor. His wife, Isabel, is here. And actually, we'll call you up as well, Isabel. Yes.
No.
Yes.
That's a point.
No? Is that a no? So it is my honor, and this award is available to anybody, whether they're, they work in the village, they volunteer for the village, or they just help out in any capacity. Someone who shows service to our community. And it's my honor to award for the spring of 2013 the Andrew C. Haggerty Outstanding Service Award to Rosemary Shalaki. How many? 6 years as president of the Suffern Seniors. So thank you so much, Rosemary.
Yeah, no.
Okay, grant writer, Mr. Rella. Oh, Trish's goddaughter just had a baby a couple of hours ago, so that's why she's leaving. So we wish her congratulations. Hey, Fred.
Hi, Board. Good morning, man.
No
Good
controversies.
evening. The Community Development Block Grant for 2013, which we were awarded $85,000. Every year we have to enter into a contract with the County of Rockland for that, and the agreement is basically the same type of agreement as in prior years, but the mayor has to sign that, so he needs authorization to sign that agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I vote yes. Motion is carried.
Okay. I had a conversation with Assemblywoman Ellen Jaffe last week, and she gave us some good news, which is still sort of pending, is $3,000 has been awarded to Dare and $2,000 for the Clifford Theater. But it's right now on the governor's desk. He just has to sign it. Okay, so she's trying to get an update on that, and will let us know as soon as possible, such that we can receive the monies. I just wanted to make you aware that I had worked with Joe Corrigan, who was in communication, Trustee Corrigan, in communication with the town of Ramapo, and the Governor Cuomo's $500 million hazard mitigation grant for the quarry project. The town of Ramapo did put in a letter of intent for $3.5 million for a grant to help with that. So that was good news.
Is that the February 29th, 2012 letter? Is that the letter they put in February of 2012?
Yes.
Yeah, originally, right. And now you have...
Right. The letter that was 6 years late. Okay.
There's actually new $500 million that's been allotted. So basically everyone in the state of New York that put a letter of intent in from Irene and/or for Sandy is able to send in to this particular one. So we have our grants out to approximately 5 different requests for different funding, and I believe Ramapo has them in at the same 5 from the last conversation I had with them for the quarry. And I'm only asking Ramapo about the quarry. I'm not asking them for any other grants that they've been working on. So they sent me the paperwork that showed that they did send it to the latest grant that we're able to apply for.
Right.
So.
Okay.
It's out in 5 different spots, right, Charles?
When will they get that money?
When will we know about it?
No. That's just a letter of intent
No, a
that
letter
you
of
intend
intent.
to actually apply for the grant. The letter of intent was due actually July 5th, and then they sent out an extension notice
To the 15th.
that you had to August 1st, but they sent out the extension notice like July 3rd, right?
Yeah.
That,
What is the schedule after that? In other words, you have the letter of intent, and then there's an invitation to apply for a grant, or?
Right, what will happen is the application will be put online, and then you actually submit the application, and then they go under review.
You don't know the monthly schedule for that?
No.
They didn't send any of that.
No.
We have to
It's just changed as of July 3rd with the date, the milestone date for the letter of intent went from July 5th to the end of August.
We have to compete for that money, right, against other
Yeah.
municipalities?
But one thing to realize is it's not $500 million federally, it's $500 million for the state of New York.
State of New York, okay.
Right, which is nice. Okay? And that's it, but we do have the public hearing on the tree, on Tree City USA.
Yes, we have to do that now. Thank you. Okay, we have a public hearing establishing a fire zone in front of 3 Cross Street. Terry? That's essentially self-explanatory. Does anybody have any questions? This is the request of the fire department, right? This is the request of the fire department? Okay. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
So moved on
Is there,
the-
was it resolution or local law?
It's a local law.
Local law number?
7.
Number 7?
Move local law number 7.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Falciglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion is carried. We have a public hearing establishing a tree advisory board and establishing Tree City USA requirements. As everybody knows, this has been something that the board has been working on for a long time. It's a pretty significant process in terms of becoming Tree City USA. The first thing you have to do is establish an Arbor Day celebration. Our recycling committee, particularly Bruce Simon and Chuck Barone, have worked greatly on that, and we've enjoyed that, I think, for 2 years already. Bruce, is that correct? It's been 4 years? 4 years, wow, time goes quickly. In addition, we have to allocate a certain amount of money in our budget, our yearly budget, to tree maintenance and a tree program, which we have done. We have significantly increased that. We also have a program in place that I want to make aware that's public. Any individual who wants a tree planted on their property, the village will plant a shade tree on your property at no cost. We will maintain it for a year, at which point we will turn it over to you. It's free trees available and we can't give them away. So I'm going to take every opportunity, including here tonight, to make people aware of that. Please spread the word, and I think it's a great program that people should take advantage of. And then the last part of it is obviously is Tree Advisory Board and establishing Tree City use requirements. So, and the reason we're going for Tree City USA is, one, it's a great thing, a great designation. It shows people that we take our environment and our trees seriously. It also opens up the village to a huge amount of potential grant money that is available, but only available to those municipalities that are Tree City USAs. So that's something that, again, our grant writer had requested that we do. It's been a long process, but we're getting towards the tail end of it. So if there is any questions from the public? Okay, everybody likes trees. Is there a motion, anything from the board, a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We have the resolution? Local law number 8?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Falciglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion is carried. Okay, we now have audience participation. So anybody has any questions, please come on up. Salvation Army?
Jim Giannatino, 2 Memorial Drive, Suffern. I think the display that we just witnessed on this lease was a crime. You had 2 trustees that had grave problems with what you put before them, with the amount of time you gave them to look at it. And unfortunately, Dagan, every question that was given to you tonight, you advocated for a contractor or a developer. You're the mayor of the village of Suffern. Your obligation is to advocate for the people sitting out here. It's the contractor's right. They have to have security. That's not your problem. You are the mayor of the village of Suffern. Let the contractor worry about his problems. Furthermore, there was no backup for this in the backup for this meeting. So it came as a surprise not only to the trustees, but to everybody in this room. We have a right to know what you're bringing up at a meeting. It's the law. Who is the contractor that wants this lease signed? We don't know, and you don't tell us.
No one has, that's okay. If you want to know the information, yes, the actual lease was received this morning. It is not uncustomary for that to happen in the village. I can point, and Terry can tell you, numerous situations in which we've made approvals subject to. We did discuss this at the last workshop meeting, and that's why we went ahead and got a second appraisal of the property. The potential developer, I thought it's a matter of public record, is Shelley Goldstein, their company, Linmark. I think everybody knows that we have a redevelopment plan. It's called Orange Avenue Associates. Obviously, they've set up an entity specifically for this purpose. They are proposing as of now 100, and I think they're anticipating, obviously, the zoning is important, 110 luxury rental units, including a doorman, concierge services, a rooftop garden, and a rooftop gym. I believe it's something that everybody in the last 3 administrations, and I think all board members, believe that residential redevelopment on Orange Avenue is something that would be great. They're also putting in a condo plan to potentially condo it if the market is better. That's a model that they pursued in Bon Air, in which the first phase of Bon Air was rentals and then it was co-opt. And again, all I'm doing today is I am looking out for the taxpayers, because I think that redevelopment along Orange Avenue is essential to bringing our downtown back around the train station. I think that everybody, I know that the first time I heard about this project, Jim, was in 2004 when you had a press conference outside there with redevelopment.
Nobody's against the project, Dagan.
So I think it's good. All we're doing here, and I understand, look, there is an issue of timing. I want the board to be on board, and I have discussed this with them. And a 99-year lease, the board members seem to not see that, or that was a concern, and that's a concern that can be addressed. But I believe I disclose the information that is very clear. We are getting $12,000 non-refundable money so that they can come forward to the village board with a proposal to build. We will then have the full and fair opportunity, public hearings before the planning board, before the village board, on the requisite zoning. So essentially what we're doing here is the best way for them to get an interest in the property so that they can come forward and make a proposal. Okay, if there were some concerns, we will address those concerns. But the bottom line is this is a $12,000 payment to the village so that they can propose to build 100 full taxed units in our downtown. Look, this is the way it's moving. I want this project to happen. I think it's a great project. And again, there'll be full and fair and open public hearings. This is just a first step, and we're getting $12,000 that we didn't have. So I think it's a good thing.
Are you done? Now I'll ask my questions.
Sure.
What was the necessity that it had to be done tonight? You didn't tell the public who this person was until just now.
That I think is...
Now, let me go a little bit. You like to go for 10, 15 minutes at a time.
Fine.
We have a right to know who it is before you vote on it. We also have a right to know that the 36-page agreement wasn't even read by the attorney yet, but yet you had to vote on it tonight. If you would have tabled it for a month, were you afraid some other contractor was going to come in and grab it?
No, not at all.
Well, then what was the rush?
You're asking a question. The interest is this. It may be, you may say it's news. I do know that we had a conversation, so I know you know, right? So you can't stand here and say that you didn't know that Shelley Goldstein was interested in building this.
Never officially.
Okay, but, I mean, are you aware, right?
I heard rumors, but I never heard it from my village board.
Okay, so the point is this. The reason why we're doing this now, and it has not, the lease, any contract that's agreed upon is the terms of the lease. This is not a surprise. The village board was aware of the terms of the lease. The price we receive, the appraisal of the property, the terms of the lease. The one concern that one board member expressed was over the length of time, and that is a legitimate concern, okay? The reason why that I don't want to table this is because, one, we want to move this forward, get payment, and enable them to make an application because they need to get all the properties lined together. We have no obligation here. I'm looking out for the village, but it is my job to keep this going because it's been 9 years for developers and we haven't done it. We now have, for the first time, a very real chance. Nothing is going to happen. No approvals are going to be given without full, fair, open, public disclosures, public meetings, as is always the case. And if, yes, I am trying to get this done this month, is because I think the ability to bring this proposal to the public is something that the public will embrace and be behind. And if not, they will come to public meetings and have the opportunity to be heard before this village board. Okay? And Jim, I think that that's the case. No one's trying to hide anything.
If it's decided that he wants to build rentals, and the public comes out against it, is this lease null and void?
I think, well,
Don't think, what does the lease say?
Okay, Jim, please, the bottom line is this. The lease on the property, if the village board doesn't want it, then the village board won't grant the zone change. And the point is, if I'm an owner who's it's logic, getting a lease because I want to build, and then I don't get the approval, then presumably they're not going to continue the lease. And then we'll be left without a property.
If I can say something, Jim.
Yeah, go right ahead, Terry.
I did read the lease. I didn't read the lease in extreme detail because I haven't had the time, but I know all the primary terms and conditions. And answering the one question that you mentioned, you know, what are they going to do with it? If it goes forward as a 5-year lease, although this is somewhat redundant, the lease says that they can use it for a use that's legal under the zoning law. So, I mean, that's kind of belt and suspenders.
Yeah, but why would you go for 99, Terry? Why wouldn't you go for 3 with renewals?
Well, they're not doing that anymore. Now they're at 5 years.
It's just the reason was a 99, Jim, and
I just don't understand 99 years, and I don't think a few people up there understand 99 years
The reason
either.
is a 99-year lease, okay, is sometimes when you purchase land from municipalities, that's how they did it.
But that's New York City.
Okay.
That's not Suffern.
No, you're asking a question. let me explain it. No, there's other situations when we had discussed, you know, building a parking lot. It is a typical way to do it. I believe ultimately they will close and purchase the property. It was just a way to get a property interest. Now, if that is a concern and that concerns people, then we're eliminated. It's just a 99-year lease. It's just a type of a lease. I do not believe that anybody believes that if they get an approval, they will be leasing this property in, let's say, 3 years from now. They will close. Again, as I said, this is just to give them the opportunity to come and make a presentation to the board. Mr. Meehan, Mr. Falciglia expressed concerns over that length. I tried to explain it and said that we will change that. It was just a number that was in there. To me, it's a standard thing. I've looked into it. It's something we've researched. But if it makes people uncomfortable and concerns for the village, it's something that can be changed. It does not affect or impact their reason for entering the lease. The lease is simply entered into so they have a right to have some control over all the parcels for a period of time that they can come to the village board and make an application. Presumably, the village board will hopefully, I think the project's great, say yes. If they do, they will close on the properties and build. If they don't, they can walk away from the project without owning land that they have no interest in owning if they don't get the right to build on it. And I think that it's as clean and
It's basically the same deal they made with the town for the quarry, and we all sit here years later and nothing happened.
No, that's very different, Jim. This is similar to the agreement that they've made with Mr. Shen on the property. It's essentially an option that enables them to make a presentation that if we say no, they can walk away with spending a certain amount of money, as opposed to saying, in order for you to even come to the village board and make a proposal, you need to spend $2.5 million on property that as of now you have absolutely no right to build on. And you may say that I am looking out for the taxpayers, and I believe it's in the interest to make this happen, and I'm trying to come up with a way that makes this happen with the least amount of risk for everyone and enables this to move forward. That's the fact.
And if you waited 30 days, you would have had the same opportunity. Shelley Goldstein would have still been there, would have still signed the deal, and the public would have known what was going on, and the trustees that didn't get a chance to read it would get a chance to read it. You tabled something on recreation for a month because one particular trustee had a problem with it.
Okay.
Well, 2 of them had a problem here, and you didn't table it.
Yes, because I think the concern was they got a lease today, and has not been the past when we've entered into leases that they typically do not read the entire agreement. So I understand that based on Mr. Meehan's concern that there was a condition that he didn't feel comfortable. I don't want to add words in his mouth. That the bottom line is, before the board members feel comfortable, our attorney's going to review it. And I know people want to table things, but I'm also the mayor of this village. I want to move this village forward. I think it's in the best interest, and right here, I think what I did is enable us to move forward while ensuring that the trustees' concerns are addressed. And It may have not have been easy, it may not have been pretty, but we're moving forward and we're doing it. And that's my job as mayor. That's what I think leadership is about. And I think when this building opens, I'm not going to be mayor of this village of Suffern, but I tell you now, I think this building will forever change this village in an extremely positive way and will enable us to keep taxes under control and have the downtown that everybody has always dreamed of. And you know
I
what?
thank you for agreeing with my vision that I have.
I agree with Jim. I think it's great, and I think it's a great thing for all of us. I want you to be there on the day we announce it. You were the first person who came up with this. I give you credit
I
where
still
credit
think
is due.
you could have tabled it. This agreement would not have gone away. It would be here next month and 6 months from now.
Okay, that's
And
okay.
my last thing on this is, if one of these trustees has a problem, this vote is null and void?
If they have a concern over the terms of the lease, then they are not comfortable with the attorney has said that, what's exactly?
Well, I mean, the board's agreed to the essentials of the agreement. If there's any language in the draft lease that they would want changed, then we'll get it changed. And if it's a matter of substance that can't be changed, then left
Well, I think this board should have another meeting to vote in front of the public on this issue.
Okay,
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bill Schoenlein. You know, I'm the chairman of the Suffern Park Authority, and I tried to talk to you about this. I was raising my hand. Since this board didn't have the courtesy, and the Park Authority's been running that building 120 for years, and you guys didn't have the courtesy to even ask me any questions or tell me anything about this. This is maybe the first time I'm hearing about this, and we've been running that building and paying that mortgage. So what I want to ask some questions to you now. When does this lease start? Because we already got that building leased.
Yes, and the tenant stays in force. And if you remember, Bill, when we negotiated the lease, we had conversations on this, because if you remember, this has been something where this particular applicant has been interested in this property for well over a year, and the key issue was enabling David Shen to be able to sign, right? Because everyone knows, that everyone's been with this, that the big obstacle has been Mr. Shen's willingness to sell the property. He now decided he wanted to sell it. He entered into an agreement. And if you remember, that is why when we negotiated that original lease, when we discussed the lease at the board meeting, the reason why we made the lease as short as we did is because we believe that there was a good shot we would very well be in this situation.
No, that's not true. When I discussed the lease with you, you told me just make it short because something might be coming down.
Yeah, on Orange
You didn't tell
Avenue.
me anything about a 99.
No, but what I'm saying is we made the lease short because we knew that somebody was interested in developing it.
Not me.
No, but we discussed that.
No, we didn't discuss that.
This board discussed that. That's
The
why.
board discussed
Yeah, how
it,
long
but
was
you
the
didn't
lease?
discuss it
10
with
months?
me.
Is it? What's the lease? A year?
Well, I have another question then. We'll
Okay.
go bypass that. Since the board is taking the building over, are they going to take responsible of paying the mortgage every year now?
Who, the village?
No. Yes, because
There is no
The mortgage is paid off.
There's no mortgage.
We've been
mortgage
paying
is
you a
paid
mortgage, $26,000 a year for 10 years.
The building is paid off. Right now, there's an agreement with the parking authority to make payments to the village. If the property is ultimately sold and developed, obviously the parking authority won't control the property anymore. But the parking authority, the village owns the property, so nothing changes. Right now, the property is owned free and clear. There's no debt on it at all.
Then why has the parking authority have to be paying you $26,000, the village $26,000 a year for what?
That's the agreement that the parking authority made with the village. Now that the money is paid off, we're looking to sell this property. And there's a tenant in the property.
Correct.
So you receive the rent, and we're the landlord. So normally...
So we don't have to pay the $26,000 this year?
Well, if
Well,
it gets...
you're supposed to pay it, but you're supposed to pay it, yes.
Has the board read the agreement between the parking authority and the village?
Yes.
And you know what happens when you sell a building, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure you realize
Correct.
what happens.
The village is well aware of all the terms, and we discussed this. We have discussed this. This is not the first time this has been up. And again, I know that you may not have known this was happening here at this moment, but again, I do know that when we entered into that lease, I spoke with you and also with one of the members of the Parking Authority Board, and when we discussed having this tenant in there, I understand that we made the lease short, and that conversations were held with them saying, you know, you're coming into the village, you're opening the store, be aware that the village owns this, and our long-term plan is to have this property developed.
And who's the other board member you spoke to?
Scott Shedler.
Okay. All right, so we'll discuss this further another time?
Of course.
Okay.
How's the tenant doing?
Pretty good, I guess. Not sure, they're paying the rent, so that's all that counts. But I really don't appreciate it. At least you could just have, I mean, if you're going to have this big discussion, you should have sat down with at least myself.
My
and let me
understanding
know.
is that your board was aware of what's going on. If that's not the case, I apologize. I do know that we did speak to the tenant, and the tenant has been told that obviously if this does go forward, that we will make sure they're moved to another location in the village. And they were aware that they were, and I think she exactly said is, look, I knew it was a short-term thing, and that's kind of why I did it, because I have a short-term lease, and if it works and I get a big following, it's not the type of business that is very hard to move.
So you can't sign the lease until the other lease is over, correct?
Subject to.
No, it's subject to it. That means that they have to honor the terms of that lease.
How can you sign a lease for 2 tenants?
It's a lease on the property.
That's their decision. If they want to pay money to the
Exactly.
village for no reason, that's their business, you know?
Hi, Rich Kopp, Lonigan Drive. I hope you missed me the last 2 meetings.
Definitely.
Again, the same question. Can you give me an update on the removal of the houses next door to me?
Sure, Joe, you want to go?
Yes, we can.
Hey, praise the Lord. God willing and the creek don't rise. I'm happy.
And Terry and Charles, since we've all worked on this together, and Elaine, I said, Terry and Charles, if I get any of the dates incorrect, just let me know.
Good.
We're looking to close on the properties on the beginning of August. We have bids that have come in. We've accepted the bids, or, well, we're about to discuss that.
Okay.
We're hoping September to start removal of the homes. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay. What are they going to do with the property once it's done?
As we've explained, it will be filled in with dirt, and there will be grass seed put down, and the village will maintain the grass.
Okay. Good.
It is open space. There'll be no building on it whatsoever.
Would people be allowed to park on it?
Park on it?
Okay. There's been talk about, I can park my car here.
No, when on the board have we
just
ever talked
curious,
about
you know?
parking?
But when this happens, let everybody know what they can do, what they can't do.
Yes.
As you know, parking
hope
is a
so.
problem. Especially we got these beautiful streets with these black things going all over the place.
FEMA regulations, the reason they get the property is, what they're saying is, the whole logic behind it is, look, every few years it's going to storm, and it's going to cost us all this money to pay out.
Yeah.
So we'd rather, if it's either destroyed more than once or 50%, or if there's a cumulative damage, we'd rather buy it out and pay now to not pay 100 times in the future.
Right.
And the rule is it has to be passive.
I got a perfect idea for the village board, for the village of Suffern. You guys are so concerned about recreation, buy it out, and there's a Suffern Recreation Center. We got
No,
plenty
you
of
can't
room.
build on it. You
build
can't
on
build
it.
on it. It'll be
Can't
passive.
build
We got
on it.
water rides and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No parking.
Another question. These condos on Orange Avenue that you're so-called talking about, where would they put the cars?
There'd be, I understand again, the proposal will come forward to the village that there'd be on-site parking, underground parking.
You said 100 apartments, right? So you figured 2 cars per apartment?
Whatever the proposal is, that will be addressed when they come before the
Where
board.
would that go out? Right on Orange Avenue?
You
don't know, okay.
We have to look at the proposal.
No, we need more traffic there.
This is just to enable them to make a proposal.
And there'll be traffic studies too, Rich. Like, the whole process goes on.
To make us a proposal.
Hello, good evening. Roy Chudy, 16 Lonigan Drive. And thank you for the opportunity to come up and speak with you guys. I'd like to first thank Charles Sawicki and Joe Hunt and members of the DPW for the nice work that they've been doing at Hallett Park, reseeding and putting in the drainage area over there. So appreciate that very much too. And also the members from the DPW who work so hard in the heat and everything. So if it's not noted by anybody else, I would just like to be the one that notes it and say I appreciate it. I also want to thank the AmeriCorps because they still, to this week, they've been having volunteers in the Mawa River, and they have been doing remediation of removal of debris. So on a personal note, I just want to thank them also for the volunteer work that they've been providing. Speaking about Joe Hallett Park, again, Joe Hunt and Charles were nice enough to address the situation with the basketball courts to make it a safer environment for the kids, so the balls don't go into the water by moving it so the baskets now face Lonigan. So I appreciate that. However, what I would ask from the Recreation Department, since the baskets and the backboards have been there for over 35 years, if it wouldn't be too much to have that replaced with something a little bit newer, and the court area itself is so banged up, if they could just somehow resurface it and paint the
I think there's no reason to get new baskets. I mean, resurfacing, I don't know,
by resurface, I don't mean putting a brand new, you know, if there's some way they could smooth out the court, so if a kid bounces the ball, it doesn't go that way.
Let's, I think what we should do is, I think we should get new baskets. That's a good point. So Kathy, the next month, if we could look into prices, and then we can use some of the money that we have in recreation to do that. And then Charles, do you mind looking to see if we should,
seal it like a driveway?
Yeah, seal it. That just to make it more, dress it up to make it a little bit. So I personally, I'd appreciate that too.
We'll get it with breakaway rims, so you can.
Yeah, on behalf of the kids,
so you can slam dunk, Roy.
I can't get up to 1 foot for the about, but that would be much appreciated from the kids. I have to admit, I'm a little embarrassed to come up and address the situation regarding the kiddie park again, because here we find ourselves in the month of July, and again, I present the same question of how come, why, where is it? And I always seem to get the same reply, which is, it's the other guy's fault. And, I for the life of me, I'm not an attorney. I'm certainly not as in your realm, but I just don't understand why we just don't go ahead, that you've made every overture to these people to do this.
But Roy, this is what we deal with. I mean, look, I'm trying to move things forward, and the problem is, I get, if I'm criticized for trying to move things it's people, it's not their priority, but we are moving it, and Terry will tell you where it is.
As I explained last month, we've been having some difficulty with the seller's attorney. We, last Friday, as a matter of fact, I sent copies of the emails that came back from the title company to the mayor and to Joe Corrigan, since they've been involved in this, that they had received some of the information that they required with respect to the estate. The fact that it's owned by an estate makes it somewhat more complicated, and they wanted one additional piece of information from the seller's attorney. So, I'm as frustrated as anybody else. I can't do somebody else's job, but I'm pretty confident that within the next, I'm picking numbers out of the air, but within the next 4 weeks, hopefully we can close, because as soon as the title company says that it's good to go, then we're all set. I can't close without the title company saying it's good, because otherwise I'm getting bad title.
I understand that.
So we're trying.
Believe me, no one wants us done more than we do.
Yeah, I understand, but I personally, if that's the case, just inundate them with it, just, till they say you're such a pest, do it and get it done, because that's, it's bureaucracy at its best.
Well, Joe knows that this guy, the seller's attorney, has been getting frequent and more angrier emails from me,
and I've been sending them as well.
And yes, and Joe has been doing it too.
They're on top of it. Roy, it's really, we all make mistakes at times, but I can tell you, Terry and Joe, it's not our side. We are pushing them as hard as we can.
I appreciate that. I just feel it's my duty as a
We'll send you
citizen
over to the lawyer if you want.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Actually, their area recovered pretty well from Sandy. It might be a nice ride. He
There you
lives
go.
right on the water.
Listen, I'm ready to go. I'll pack the bags. I'm ready to go.
We'll send you over.
I wanted to ask Clark something, but he stepped out. So, and that was if you could pass it on to him. Again, the
He's
exit.
right outside, isn't he?
Yeah.
he's right
Elaine's
outside.
Why don't you
Elaine's
ask him?
getting him.
Here it comes.
How dare he leaves this facility?
I want to thank Clark and his men for all that they do for the village also. Clark, I would like to address again that the issue of the entrance from South Street onto to Franklin Turnpike. Even though that stop sign is there, people continue to disobey that sign. Maybe you need a bigger sign. Maybe they could put some kind of a red light on there like people do in an area, because it's just abused. Today, I literally almost did my PTSD move and got out of a car because it was so bad. I was sitting there for close to 7 minutes. We just couldn't get out because every time there was, the traffic comes from Jersey into Suffern, and then vice versa, and then they fill up the area, and it really is going to lead to either an accident or some kind of an altercation. So I don't know how it could be addressed other than may have a third platoon guy or spend an hour there, a second platoon guy there.
I actually saw that we have them there consistent. We're just changing the time limit. Yes, that is on the list like we have with people selecting enforcement. That's just important. But I'm sure you're going to keep doing it. I know what to do.
Yeah, it's brutal, and the sign maybe could be a little bit bigger. So. Okay. The last thing I would like to say is on a personal note, and that's going to be addressed to anybody and everybody that's here, that's either on the board or sitting out here, who is going to run and seek election to public office. I wish you all the best of luck. I truly do, each and every one of you. And I ask, as just a citizen, for each one to please consider that vitriol be put aside, that issues and honest answers are what people are looking for. Just because somebody has a different viewpoint or a different way to go about solving a problem doesn't mean that person is bad or indifferent or somebody is good. It has nothing to do with that. Everybody is looking to seek to serve the public and to do what's right. And as an individual who I would vote for dog catcher if I could, because I believe in the vote. I just would ask that everybody, no matter who they are, reassess themselves, reflect, and say, I want to do a job that's for the public. That's my best interest. And when you promote yourself, you could do so. Anybody can do so, and bring your ideas and your issues to the forefront without saying anything negative about anybody else. Just promote yourselves and your ideas and your issues. And I ask that because I'm telling you, it's not just me. I think people get turned off to politics because of the finger pointing, the yelling, the nastiness that comes up. And it really shouldn't be. Listen, I'm not going to preach. We're all God's children, and everybody has a right to an opinion. And that's all all I ask as a citizen is that promote yourself, promote your ideas, be open, be honest, and don't have, if you have anything negative to say, don't do it, because each and every one of us, at least once a day, have a great opportunity to shut our mouths on an idea that might be of a negative issue. So sometimes it's best that, just keep things close to the vest. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you for those
Thank you.
comments.
Adam DiStefano, 19 Prairie Avenue. I just have a couple questions with the Goldstein lease, with everything, not the lease exactly. Are they going to be following, if they do go along forward with the project, which is what they're anticipating doing, are they going to go along with the urban renewal plan, or are they going to do a separate thing on their own?
I think it's going to be a normal application.
Going to be a normal application? Okay.
I anticipate it.
And you said they're looking at doing luxury apartments with the possibility of eventually upgrading to homes or condos, actually, correct?
I'm going to say upgrading, but possibly converting.
Yeah, like converting it into condos instead.
Correct.
Because I'm just asking that because if we were going to go with luxury apartments, because I've always been in favor of the condos, but if we were going to go for luxury apartments, I know we had, I think it was 2 years ago now, Cole was interested, and Cole Development, if there's anyone to look for a role model in the area for luxury apartments, they were absolutely the person to look at. What happened with them in the past? Did they just lose interest because we didn't want to go with apartments?
No, it was just it just didn't work out.
It just didn't work out with that? Okay, because I'm saying if we're looking at doing luxury apartments, we should maybe ask them. That way we get two separate developers to look at the same project again.
Well, the one developer now controls almost all the parcels, so we're not going through urban renewal. So someone's making an application to us.
Yeah, no, I know it's an application process. I was just saying maybe if Cole would be interested again. Because that way if we
I don't think they are, but if someone has control of the property, is no more. This is not an RFP situation. This is like someone owning a piece of property.
This is just a regular application,
and coming to the village, so.
All right, yeah, so I wish the Goldsteins the best of luck, and I look forward to seeing what proposal they come up with.
Yep. Thank you. Have you already spoke? Could we just have one at a time? We have a long agenda. Could we, honestly, we need to, it's 9 o'clock. We have but did you already spoke, right?
It was has to wait until
Can we have someone else please speak who hasn't spoken?
Yeah.
Take care, John.
Jean Hennelly, 135 Wayne Avenue. I would like to ask, in the last meeting, you guys made a motion to hold a public hearing tonight for the MS4 report, and I'm wondering why it wasn't on the agenda tonight.
For what? The what?
The MS4 report.
The MS.
The what?
Oh,
The MS Municipal
MS4, the stormwater,
Compliance
yeah.
Certification. I'm wondering why that wasn't on the agenda this evening.
Charles,
It was supposed to be at 7:25 this evening.
there was not enough notice in time, so we're going to do it, what, next month? Yeah.
Okay, because was this report filed already? Because I think the public hearings. Yes, I know that. But part of the application is a public portion. If it specifically asks whether or not anybody asked any questions.
Yes,
at the public hearing.
We didn't have ample time for the public hearing, so we're going to do it next month.
Okay, because on the application it says that there was a public hearing held on June 10th, which it hasn't been. So I'm just wondering, how it could be submitted without a public hearing.
Okay.
So I can ask questions about it next month?
Prepared prior to June 1st, the anticipated hearing date, and obviously we missed that.
Okay, so next month,
It hasn't been reflected in the new document.
Okay, so,
Enough time for the publicly advertised.
because we had a month though, I guess it was just overlooked.
Yeah, things happen.
Okay, all right, it was overlooked. The next question I have is regarding the web designer. I guess to date, this month he'll be receiving up to $15,000 to date of taxpayer money, and I'd like to know what you guys think if he's really earning his money. I know that he did a great job on the the police department website. But other than that, nothing's been done to the village website. Nothing's been done to the parking authority website. The downtown website is not even online anymore. So I'm wondering what's the holdup
It's
to...
stuff that this person deals with on an everyday basis with the various department heads. So it's servicing all our websites, getting stuff online, all the kind of stuff with relation.
So nobody in this department can access the website? Can put in...
No,
he has
it's
to
not
put the
how
information?
that's not how it works. They work directly with the person in terms of updating the information online, getting everything on, the forms you see, everything you see. That person deals with the village on that on an everyday basis.
Someone in-house cannot learn how to put a PDF file on a website?
It's a lot more than that, but we have somebody who works with our people in the village and helps and assists in that, yes. That has always been the case.
Okay.
If you would love to volunteer, sure.
No, because I know you were very gung-ho about this guy, and I thought there would be a Facebook link and a Twitter link right on the website, and there's still nothing to that effect, and I'm wondering when that will happen.
Okay.
And
we'll look into it. Gene, I'm not prepared to answer that question right now.
I mean, I know he's doing a lot of work for you on the patch
I know that they've been doing a lot of work in terms of every day. You asked me a question what they do, and they deal with the everyday maintenance of our various sites in terms of stuff like that. They work with the police department website and and other things that go on a regular basis, on almost an everyday basis.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm just saying.
Okay? That's your question. I answered it. Thanks.
Can I get some opinion on other people on the board, what their idea of...
If you want to, I don't know if they've worked with the person. I don't...
No, I mean, his actual accomplishments. Is everybody happy with the website? I mean, for $15,000?
Do the department heads have any complaints with the servicing?
No,
I
and
see
I've heard
three
nothing
people
but good.
shaking their head.
Well,
help me
it's
set
just
up my village email and hook it up to my
the sale of the change of this new person. He hasn't done much, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's your opinion, and you can talk to department heads. I'm sure they'll tell you otherwise. But thank you. Okay, moving right along. Police department.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Board. Just a couple quick things. Number one, we received a letter of resignation for one of our dispatchers, Andrew York, who we like very much. He was hired by the New York City Police Department. He was told Saturday to report for Tuesday morning, so we didn't have exactly a lot of time to get somebody else in. I spoke with Joanne in the village office.
Yeah.
She is getting us a civil service list for certified dispatchers, so we will hopefully be coming back to you in the near future with a candidate for a dispatching position. I asked the board to accept his resignation dated today.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I vote yes, and we wish him good luck.
Absolutely, great kid. We like him very much. He was a great dispatcher. Just two more quick things. Number one, we've been dealing with a lot of bank fraud issues in town. We apprehended two gentlemen out of Spring Valley and Muncie last week who hit the Capital One with fraudulent documents and got a little nervous, took off. We apprehended him with a rental car on Ramapo Avenue as they fled. The investigation's continuing with local authorities and the U.S. Secret Service. We got them involved as well. And last but not least, I just got this information a few minutes ago, otherwise I would have let you know earlier. 2 years ago, there's a program called Secure the Cities. It's run by the New York City Police Department and the Department of Homeland Security. And 2 years ago, all county, which was the Sheriff's Department, and town police departments were given special SUVs equipped with radiological detectors and nuclear device detectors in the vehicle. It was just for city and towns because they ran out of money. I am the immediate past president of the county police chiefs and as a village chief, obviously, and the president now is a village chief as well from Piermont. And we lobbied the police chiefs as well as the sheriff and the DA as I'm on the seizure committee. And I just found out we received $54,000 to purchase a brand new Chevy Suburban full size with every possible amenity on it. Radiological equipment, nuclear device equipment, lights, radios, and we'll be receiving that vehicle probably November or December. So I just wanted, that's great news, saves us 54 grand, and we're going to use it as a supervisor's vehicle on patrol. So we've done very well.
Can we sell one of the other vehicles then, on Craigslist?
What's that?
Do we have a vehicle then to sell or trade in?
We'll have one of our ones to take off the road, one of the older ones, yes. Yeah, we'll probably take one of those off, Mr. Falciglia, so we've done very well with this account. We've gotten 2 license plate readers for about $30,000, 2 full cam high-tech surveillance equipment pieces for about $30,000, so we've done very well with this line. So I just want to let you know the lobbying worked, and I thought that was great news, so. And that's it, and I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you,
Thanks,
Clark.
Chief. Street departments. Street departments.
Street department.
Street department. I thought you were the DPW.
Yeah, you gotta wait, Charles.
Do we have is there a curfew?
Yeah, there should be.
In effect?
Department of Public Works, that should be.
It's no problem. The Mets are in San Francisco and the game starts at 10:15.
And you can stay up to watch it.
That was good to stand up.
Actually, it's Lancaster.
I hope that TV's on low volume. And no screen.
So Phil Ferguson.
That's hard. The Mets. I mean, he's music.
Tomlin's need to go away. So I got him on and he watches it, but now he just...
This is what I got elected for.
He's just like, are you okay?
Go ahead, Charles.
What happened? The tape ran out?
Good evening, Mayor and the Board. Requesting authorization to award a contract for the demolition of residential housing project located on Lonigan Drive to the low bidder, Par Environmental Corporation, Suffern, New York. The contract amount is $189,750.
The only thing, Charles, is I would put a proviso in there, since we haven't closed on the 4 houses, and although we anticipate doing that in early August, at least one of the because of the FEMA requirements, the condition of finally closing any of them is conditioned upon closing all 4 of them. And so there may be some time delays or something, so I would just say that the condition of the award of the contract is that the village take title to the property, because I don't want to have a contract awarded and have a contingency there that, at least in theory, might not happen. So if that's okay with the board.
Yeah. So moved.
Second. Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, sorry, roll call. Mr. Falciglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan? Yes. I vote yes, motion is carried.
Requesting authorization to accept a proposal to provide third-party asbestos abatement monitoring professional services for the demolition of residential housing project. This proposal is from Quest Environmental, Inc., Wappinger Falls, New York, in the amount of $11,763 and is based on the abatement contractor's estimated duration of work.
And the same condition on
Same
that as
condition?
Same condition.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Oh, sorry.
Was this a bid situation or not, or?
No, this is professional services, and this is to comply with New York State Department of Labor Code Rule 56.
I'm familiar with that.
You are?
No, I'm not. Okay.
Oh, do we have the amount? Where's the amount?
Yeah, it's right there, 763.
Where is it?
Okay.
Okay, $11,763 is the amount.
Yes.
Mr. Falciglia?
Yes.
Oh, was there a second?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan?
Yes.
I vote yes, motion is carried.
Requesting authorization to accept a proposal to provide consulting arborist professional services. This proposal from Ira Wicks, arborist, Spring Valley, New York, is in an hourly amount of $175, not to exceed $5,000. Ira Wicks, arborist, will be consulted on tree inventory and replacement tree selection and placement in conjunction with Tree City, USA.
I just like to comment on this. Charles and I discussed this. We've used John Wicks, who everybody knows in the community is just a phenomenal guy, an arborist. But, we made sense to have him on an hourly basis because a lot of work can ultimately be done by our village in terms of planting trees, but in terms of siting them, how close they are to a right-of-way, sometimes Charles, even though ultimately will do the work and save a lot of money, it's important for him to have the ability to consult with an arborist so that, we're not, doing anything that ultimately will cost us in the long run.
Motion?
Again, this money is in the budget because we have a substantial budget for tree maintenance and services.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Falciglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan?
Yes.
I vote yes.
I'd like to request to add an additional item to the agenda.
Sure.
Okay. Requesting authorization to advertise bids for the roof replacement of the Washington Avenue Hose Company. Bids will be due on July 29th at 3 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Hey, Charles, thank you.
Public hearing, Charles.
Pardon me?
Oh, for the public
Oh, yeah,
hearing for
public
the
hearing.
MS.
Oh.
I can, is there a motion to set that public hearing for 7:35 on Monday, August 5th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much.
Village Clerk.
Okay. First, we have the approval of the minutes of the meeting of April 1st.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I vote yes. Motion is carried.
Okay. Approval of the regular board meeting of May the 6th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I vote yes. Motion is carried.
We have a request from B. Bowles for 3 tables and 6 chairs.
Okay?
And it was approved by the 2
Code enforcers.
Code enforcers.
Okay, that's our typical process. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I vote yes, motion is carried. I'd like to note, this board, in other villages in the area, it's amazing what you have to go through to get outdoor dining, that you need additional site plan approval and everything. I think that we've really, everyone deserves credit because having this outdoor dining, I think, really attracts people to the village, and the fact that we enable business owners to do it without spending a ton of money and jumping through hoops, as long as it's safe and there's room, I think it's a home run. Shout out to you, Mr. B-Ball.
Good luck. At B-Balls, it's a home run.
He stayed all this time
We have a
for that.
request from Kim Hamilton for the annual block
stayed all
party
this time for that.
to be held August the 31st, 2013.
Lexington Avenue, my old neighborhood.
There you go. You want to move it then?
Motion it?
I'll move it from my old
Second.
neighborhood.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Now, we have another request for a block party, and this is for the residents of 1 to number 12 Oak Terrace, and that's for July the 20th.
Is there a motion?
Anyone know anyone lives there?
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
I have one more item, Mayor. We needed a resolution that you wanted to hire the 2 young people from the county.
We only ended up, we only hired
We only have
one.
hired one.
Yes, for the Youth Bureau.
Okay, that the village of Suffern, I have hired 2 youth from the...
One youth.
I'll change that.
Sure.
From the Rockland County Youth to work with the village of Suffern from June 24th to August the 26th.
Excellent. Okay, is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is something we approved before, we just need the official resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I vote yes, motion is carried.
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Virginia. Finance Department, Tom Zordan. Wheel yourself down, please.
You're on a hill. Slow it down, Tom.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and Board. I guess Virginia gave you this proposal that I got for the phone system here. I'm not looking for approval on this yet. I just wanted you guys to see this. I believe Clark got a copy of this, and Ray. I'll give out copies to the other department heads tomorrow. But I just want you to know that obviously, we do have to replace our phone system. And as I had said last month when you approved the change in our phone service, last month we would save $267 approximately every month, that we would use that to pay for this. Well, lo and behold, if we change over to this system, this phone system, they use a different kind of operating system called a PRI, and because of that, instead of saving $267 a month, we'll save approximately $800 a month. So that will more than pay for the new phone system. So I'd just like to, ask you guys to look this over. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me, and after I talk to a couple more people, if this is the one that I think is the best, then I'll come next month and ask for your approval.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Didn't you have an item for the...
Yeah, the bond resolution.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
It's only 500,000.
Yeah, no, 499. Okay, yes, I'm asking the board to approve the bond resolution that you have before you. That is to pay for our capital projects that we approved in the budget. So I'm just asking if you'd approve that.
Sure. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Falciglia?
Yes.
Mrs. Corrigan?
Yes.
Mr. Meehan?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion is carried.
Thank you, and thank you, Virginia, for reminding me.
Thank you. Okay. Trustees, Yorkshire Drive.
Yeah, we had discussed this, and it was basically a proposal of myself and Trustee Falciglia, and the move to have the double yellow line was because we'd received a lot of complaints, and we consider it a matter of safety, and so what we would like to do is part of Yorkshire Drive has a double yellow line, and what we'd like to do is have all of Yorkshire Drive have that double yellow line. And this was recommended by a consultant, and I think it's recommended by our police department, and I would move that at this time.
Yeah, can I ask you a question on that?
Sure.
I understand where it is now. It only goes Parkside down. But if I'm correct, the concern was from the top of Cragmere down to, because when you turn onto it, right, like the top of it, if you're coming down from Cragmere, the top of Cragmere down to Lancaster.
No, I think it was, I've heard concern of people walking, senior citizens walking, and senior citizens driving at night. And these are the people who I've heard from, so I like it the whole...
Is that what did the traffic study say all of it, or just said from...
I think it said, I believe it said all, the whole street.
Wasn't it Cragmere?
It said, the traffic study said, at a minimum, to do that, but it suggested the whole lane, yes. Suggested, at minimum, yes.
I mean, I've driven that road for 42 years. The problem is the lighting. It's bright in some areas and dark in the others. The poles were never, well, not never, but they weren't put in equidistant from each other. And I think when you come around the curve on Lancaster into Burlington, it creates a sight problem for even me because of the glare.
To Lancaster.
So.
That's what they're looking at.
Obviously, it says, based on these observations, the level of traffic considered during the weekly afternoon period is recommended that the village consider installing a double yellow line for its entire length of Yorkshire Drive. At a minimum, the village should consider installing the center line from Cragmere Road to Lancaster Drive, which is the 40-foot wide section of the roadway. And then it says, in the vicinity, yeah, that's it. So, I mean, I prefer to go that, but if the board wants to do what the board wants to do.
I've made the motion, and
Sure.
it's open to a second.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I vote no, motion is carried. So, when we get a contract, right, to do that?
Well, you have don't you annually have
The county, okay.
Yeah.
Good luck on that.
On the...
They're out of yellow.
They're yellow, they're out of every color.
Yes, I know.
The other item that Charles and I would like to bring up is, you know, we've been concerned about the parking authority, and we've attempted to get, especially Charles wrote a rather long and detailed letter requesting information, and that was 5 months ago, and we still haven't gotten all the information. And what we'd like to do is have a review, and have that review made by the village treasurer. And under the law, the village treasurer has it within his power to review the parking authority. So we'd like to direct him to do that, and to also, as part of that, to take up the questions, especially the questions that were detailed in Charles's letter. And I would also say that I know that Charles and I, that as part of this, I would be glad to do any footwork that might be necessary to aid and assist you in doing this project.
Jack, I think it's a great idea. The only thing I'd add is, because instead of doing it twice, I think that the analysis should include, you know, not just the books and everything of the parking authority, but a determination as to the potential consolidation of the parking authority, you know, back into the village for cost savings, which I agree. Ultimately, if we do that, we need, a home rule?
Yeah, need to home rule request to abolish the parking authority, which is what you would have to do.
Well, I mean, there's other ways to transition it faster and transition it, keeping it as an authority, because one of the concerns is the employees. You know, my intent was never to knee-jerk bring them in and find out someone's entitled to a pension. There's also $2 million in grant money out there that, you know, my feeling is we can keep an authority, but my complaint has always been there's been no oversight over the parking authority. So in effect, I want to have the village board have the oversight. You know, I don't want to go into what surgical strike we can do, but I think we should have a meeting on that. But in the interim, Tom can certainly investigate and find out some of these answers that have not been forthcoming for 5 months, which have sort of left a bad taste in my mouth, because I tried to do this above board, gentlemanly, but I think I've run out of patience. I think we all have, so.
Okay, how do you want to do it? Just a resolution to look into all options, however you want to propose it?
I think that would be fine. So that's the motion.
Kind of inartfully worded, Jack.
Well, I'll leave it to the village attorney.
Well, I think we should have a resolution to develop a plan of transition from the parking authority into the village.
I think that's perfect. Is there a second?
Okay, well, I'll accept that amendment. So
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I vote yes, motion is carried.
Okay. Motion to adjourn?
I think that's it. Yeah, my item, I think that was a mistake.
Oh, wait, I had one last thing.
I know it just stopped.
Sure.
Are you gonna?
We can do a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.